Good afternoon, this is Olivia Frey.
And this is Mary Grace Enman here on Political Party.
Today, our topic for discussion is the Catalonia conflict in Spain.
Today's driving question is, what should happen with Catalonia?
Personally, I believe that Catalonia should become its own state, and Mary Grace believes the same idea as well.
If you're like me and have unfortunately never had the chance to travel to Spain, you may need a little background information. So just to give you a little glimpse into the area we are dealing with, Catalonia has a population of 7.523 million compared to Spain's 46.56 million. Catalonia is widely popular for their beach resorts along the coast where Costa Brava is located, and of the Pyrenees Mountains that are also a popular attraction. Also located in Catalonia is Barcelona. The lively city attracts a lot of tourism for Spain and brings in a lot of money. I mean, this makes sense as the FC Barcelona team is here, which is a soccer team loved worldwide by lots of people, including myself. Sounds pretty great to me, so what's the problem?
Well, Catalonia is an autonomous region in Spain, meaning they have freedom to self-govern. However, they are striving to become their own sovereign region, meaning they would like to be their own independent state or country separate from Spain. In order to become a state, a country must have a definite population, delineated borders, recognition as a state from other countries, and sovereignty. Sovereignty is similar to autonomy as it is the ability to make one's own rules or laws in a defined territory. This issue leaves many people at the crossroads of a divide, not knowing what would be the smartest decision for the autocratic region. There are many reasons why this big decision may hurt Catalonia and not work out well for them, but in the end, the possibility that it would be very successful is very likely.
Yep, and to help us all better understand the situation and why it may or may not be the right idea for Catalonia to split, we are going to be talking about and referencing 3 different case studies from around the world. These will include the breakup of Yugoslavia in the early 1990s, the want of self-determination of Scotland from the UK, and the Kurds and Palestinians who are fighting for recognition.
Excellent. Absolutely excellent.
Let's start off by taking a look at Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was composed of multiple different multinational countries, including Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Macedonia. As said earlier, these countries were all multinational countries at this time. This meant that they were states that contained 2 or more ethnic groups with traditions of self-determination that agreed to coexist peacefully by recognizing each other as distinct nationalities.
And going along with that, when Yugoslavia was a multinational country, they did not have much success. There was a lot of tension between countries, as there were 4 different official languages and over 3 different religions in the state of Yugoslavia. Each ethnic group had self-determination, which caused conflict in this region. Self-determination is the concept that ethnicities have the right to govern themselves. These ethnicities all desired a country of their own, so they could express their own ideas and create their own rules. They all felt a sense of nationalism, which is a patriotic feeling towards one's country. This was discovered at what is known as a centrifugal force. A centrifugal force is an idea or factor that divides groups and creates conflict. On the contrary, a centripetal force is a unifying factor that brings groups of people together. This sense of nationalism was considered a centrifugal force because the ethnicities felt strongly to their own ethnicities and the idea of becoming their own country, and not towards the country of Yugoslavia itself.
Mary Grace, I was able to notice that Spain is in fact a multinational state as well. As Catalonia considers themselves a different ethnicity from Spain, right now a lot of tension is going on in Catalonia between the 2 ethnic groups, partly due to the fact that they are a multinational country. I believe that if Spain and Catalonia were to split into 2 different nation-states, then they would both be more successful and majority of the conflict would be solved. A nation-state is a state whose territory corresponds to that occupied by a particular ethnicity that has been transformed into a nationality. If Catalonia was able to become a nation state, like Yugoslavia later did after the conflict became too harmful, then the Catalonians would no longer have to fight and conflict with the Spaniards in order to create a country for themselves. Mary Grace, so do you agree with this idea?
I mean, I have to say that I do agree with this philosophy, Olivia. Conflict in Yugoslavia got so bad that the Serbs ethnically cleansed Bosnian Muslims and Albanians. Ethnic cleansing is the elimination of an unwanted ethnic group or groups from a society, as in the form of genocide or forced immigration. The reason the Serbs were doing this was because of their belief in irredentism. Irredentism is the idea that like people should be governed by the same government. The Serbs killed other ethnicities because they believed that they should live with their ethnicity without coexisting with other groups of people. Though conflict in Spain is not this severe now, it still needs to be taken as a precaution, as it could eventually happen someday. That is why I think that Catalonia should become their own nation-state as well.
I have to say that I completely agree. Adding to that point, Catalonia and Spain have extremely different cultures as well. Similar to Yugoslavia, there are multiple regions and languages present in Catalonia and Spain at this time. Catalonia has their own flag, language, and other things that makes them ethnically diverse from Spain. Catalonia also has its own national anthem, which is unexpected because usually only one anthem is used in each country. This begins to bring up the idea that Catalonia is gradually growing apart from Spain itself. Spain dislikes the fact that Catalonia is becoming extremely distant from Spain, so Spain has decided to ban Catalans from hanging their flags and speaking their language in schools. This is making Catalans feel unwanted as they aren't allowed to practice their own culture. This is another reason why Catalonia wants to become their own nation-state.
I do see your point, Olivia. However, there are parts of this relationship between Spain and Catalonia that are successful. This includes the idea that their economies are almost directly linked. About 40% of Catalonia's exports go to the rest of Spain. This makes Spain successful because they are getting the resources and exports they need, which they do not have in Spain. This also is successful for Catalonia because they are able to sell their products, exports, and resources to the people of Spain, making their economy succeed as well. Also, Catalonia is already given autonomy over themselves. If they already have this, then will a difference really be made if they were to obtain their own state?
I understand where you were coming from, Mary Grace, but I found that half of the income tax and value-added tax levied in Catalonia is returned to the region of 7.5 million people, with the central government in Madrid deciding how the rest is spent. Although Catalonia does have autonomy, they aren't able to decide where the money is going and who it is going to. Catalans are being forced to pay for things for a region or area that they do not live in and have no desire to live in. Spanish Treasury data says that Catalonia pays about 10 billion euros more in taxes to Madrid than it gets back. This is not fair to the Catalans that they are paying and giving Madrid or Spain their resources and money, but they are not getting anything in return.
I'd have to say that I agree with you on that one now, looking back on it. Moving on now, the next situation that is actually very similar to the Catalonia situation is taking place all the way over in the UK and the autonomous region of Scotland. While Scotland has many characteristics that would qualify it as its own state, the UK continues to reject its call for independence. As Olivia had mentioned earlier on, the qualifications to be considered a state fall very much in line with Scotland's current conditions. Additionally, not only do both Scotland and Catalonia have their own soccer teams, but proponents of Scottish independence claim the nation's North Sea oil fields and abundant fish stock could help support a separate country. Similarly, Catalonia has plenty of resources that would allow them to support an economy of their own.
The problem in these regions strive for independence comes mainly from the mother country. In both situations, the mother country uses the success of the sports teams in these regions to make the overall country look more successful. They also take advantage of the resources they produce. For instance, like Mary Grace had mentioned, the UK gains money and a boost in their economy from the resources gained from North Sea oil fields and the high abundance of fish stock.
Yeah, it really doesn't seem that fair that the mother countries are refusing their people's wants just so they can make more money. I mean, it makes sense, but just seems selfish. Especially if the region has the qualities to become their own state, but their main issue is just struggling to gain recognition from their mother country, like in the case of Catalonia.
Yeah, I have to agree. And just to add on to that, another situation that really doesn't seem that fair is the whole Kurds in Palestine struggle. The Kurds are considered a stateless nation, meaning they are a group of people that don't have a political territory to call their own and don't have sovereignty. Stateless nations are groups of people that are minorities in someone else's country and are usually very mistreated and not heard out, much like in the Kurd situation and in Catalonia.
Unlike Catalonia, though, the Kurds are currently located in a very problematic area in the Middle East. Now, the conflict in the Middle East is a whole discussion for another day, but being in the midst of all the fighting going on in that area and trying to become independent does not seem too promising. However, Catalonia is not located in the middle of all this conflict like the Kurds are, meaning their chances at becoming independent are much higher. Also, Catalonia is recognized more internationally than the Kurds are, which also really helps.
And don't forget that Catalonia also doesn't contain sacred land that would be fought over like there is in the Palestinian situation. The Palestinians are another example of a stateless nation who are having trouble getting recognition by other states. According to the debate on a Palestinian state, they are hoping to get a vote for statehood from the UN. The UN is a supranational organization or an affiliation of more than one state working towards a common goal. For Palestinians, being in the middle of sacred land is just another roadblock to independence as it brings in a whole other flurry of issues and conflicts to worry about. Thankfully for Catalonia, they don't have this issue, which should make their way to independence easier.
Yeah, that is a really good point, Olivia. But now that I'm thinking back on it, if these nations or ethnic groups, such as the Kurds or Palestinians, gain statehood, do you think that this would cause a chain reaction of riots and other independence movements around the world? I mean, that could cause a lot of conflict and maybe lead to something even worse like war. I'm just thinking about the whole Yugoslavia situation and the idea of Balkanization, or the breakup of a state that arose from what happened there. Do you think that that is a possibility, or that Catalonia gaining statehood could lead to a chain reaction of worse things?
It's a scary thought, but that very likely could be a possibility considering what happened in some of these case studies we had discussed. The whole decision of what to do with Catalonia is difficult to handle. You can only hope for the best, and in Catalonia's situation, there are a lot of pros that outweigh the cons. But on the flip side, you never know if their recognition as a state may spark a single person's motivation to start something crazy that could lead to something terrible like war.
Yeah, it's hard to make everyone happy, but I too feel like Catalonia has a good shot.
That is all we have for you today on Political Party, but before we go, we'd like to give a couple shout-outs to our sources.
Yeah, such as the debate on a Palestinian state,
our own teacher, Mr. Quick, for teaching us this information.
Vox.com.
A New York Times article in our class textbook. This has been Olivia Frey and Mary Grace, signing off.